Good morning, church family. I want to share a Christmas memory from, it's been quite a while ago. Yeah, when I was about 6, 7 years old, maybe the one that I want to share about. Of course, by the time Christmas Eve rolled around, a few things had already been happening that we knew Christmas was coming. One thing was our parents, they would go shopping for a whole day, and that was a one-time event of the year. And so the other thing was in school, we would get poems, a New Year's poem, a Christmas poem, and we had to memorize those. And the teacher would encourage us, if we practiced them at home, memorize them, and do it in a way that the parents wouldn't hear it, so it would be special. When Christmas morning came, we had to recite our poems that we had learned. But Christmas Eve, of course, finally the day came, and the evening came, where we could set out our bowls, and the oldest one would get the biggest one, and so on. So, yeah, and we asked our parents, how early can we get up? We wanted to get up as early as possible. The night was the longest night of the year, and there was hardly any sleep. So I was amazed, as little as I thought I had slept, but that I never heard my parents get up. And the commotion that I would think there should have been a little rustle or something when they got up and got our gifts out and put them in our bowls. And we would set them out in the kitchen. My brother says, we also did in the bedroom. But anyway, like when the morning came and finally the time came that we could get up and we had recited our poems to our parents, of course, we then all hurried off to the place where our Christmas gifts were. And at the bottom, there was, of course, the goodies. And on top of that, some material for a dress or maybe a scarf and a toy or two. But with much anticipation, we just looked forward to that. And this one particular year, I remember my younger sister and I, we couldn't find our dolls. And we asked, and we just couldn't find them. They were gone. They were lost. So Christmas morning come around, and there they were. They had new dresses, and it was just, we were overjoyed. When I think about it, I'm thinking, when did Mom sew for those dolls that we wouldn't know about it? I'm thinking that she must have done it after we went to bed, that she did it in the late evenings. That's where she sewed those dresses for our dolls. And I still do have one gift that I got when I was a little child. We have lived in Canada and back in Mexico, and it's still with me. And it's a memory that whenever I see it, it was a little metal chest that our parents got us where we were supposed to, where we stored our, on the Weihnachtswünschen. We always got a little folder where our poems were in, and the teacher that we had that year and which year it was, and that's also a special memory. That's where this came from. I got this out of that. And the Christmas poem would be about the birth of Jesus Christ, that the Christ child had come, and that everybody rejoices, and that he came so that we could be made right with him. That's what the Christmas poem consists of. Different poems at different years. And the New Year's poem was more like asking a blessing for the family, and also that we would be obedient, kind of like that way, where the New Year's poems are written. So I know that now after I have shared mine, there's probably at least a few of you that say, I have special memories from Christmas. I would like to share mine. So if you do, let Martha Hyde know. So yeah, I'm very fond of the memories that I have from my childhood, how it was in the Wheeler family when Christmas came around. Thank you.
If your church has been around long enough, you've probably got one hanging up somewhere.
A painting of a shepherd with his sheep.
Lots of sheep. Green pastures, still waters, all that. Everything quiet and peaceful.
But have you ever tried to steer a sheep?
Come on, come this way. No, it's dinner time.
Or for that matter, just get one to listen to you for 1 minute.
Truth be told, they're pretty dumb. I mean, you hear they're not as smart as other animals, but they are dumb.
Like, walk off a cliff just because it's there? Dumb.
Hey, get back here, Karen.
And goodness gracious, they are stubborn. Skittish, too.
Such fearful little things. They're defenseless, scared of their own shadow, but hardly able to detect real danger.
That is where guard dogs come in.
So, have you ever wondered why Jesus would call us his sheep? It's a bit of a hard pill to swallow.
But if we take a really honest look at ourselves, the messes we make, how fearful we are, and our fickle and wayward, well, let's just speak plainly, the dumb way we can be.
Yeah, sheep. That's about right.
But thankfully, God sent us a good shepherd.
Who's gentle when he finds us far from home.
But firm when he needs to be.
He reminds us of his shepherding ways right off the bat.
When he picked the shepherds to share the good news of Jesus' birth.
Yes, that first Christmas was a sign of peace with God that would last for eternity.
And our good shepherd paid a very high price for that peace.
The highest price.
I don't know about you, but I'm grateful for my shepherd.
Who's a good
Right,
sheep.
isn't that good?
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen. I didn't mean to yell at you.
I don't know if the children would like to sing a song about sheep. My wife has a song, I Want to Be a Sheep. You want to come and help me sing it? Who'll sing it for you? All the children can stand up, or you want to come to the front?
I had 2 seconds to prepare. I just found out that I was going to lead a song. Do something. You'll have to run. You can run already while I talk. There's more kids here. Yeah, just sit down right here. everybody. There's more kids. Come on, sit down right here. If I'd known this, I would have brought you a candy, but I did not know this at home. So, whoa, that's good. Okay, let me go and stand in front of you.
You don't sit on the stairs. Yeah.
Okay, you move over a little bit and I'll stand there. Everybody, just sit down here behind. Okay, good. You can be on the stairs. That's cool. But then you can't see me so well. How do we do it? Can you turn your head so you can see me?
Maybe
I
she's
should
going
be
to sit.
down there.
Maybe she'll stand in front of them.
Yep. Okay, let me know. Okay, can you move so I can get down here? Yeah, I'll just stand in front of you. That's even better. Now we can see each other. Yeah, we've had a minute to prepare. He wants me to teach you a song about sheep. Do you know what sheep do? You know how they make a sound? There we go. Can you all make that sound? Okay, can you make it with a little vibration in it? Okay, all of you do it. Bah. There we go. Now this song is about that. Actually, I have made up this song from a copy of another song. I have made this song years ago. It goes like this. You can sing it after I sing it once, okay? I just want to be a sheep. Ba. Now you sing with me the ba. Ba, ba. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. I pray, dear Lord, my soul to keep. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. Can we do it again? Okay, say ba first. Ba. Okay, let's do it again. Now, if you can know the words, you can sing, but make sure you sing the ba. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. I pray, dear Lord, my soul to keep. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. Don't you want to sing it with us once? I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. I pray, dear Lord, my soul to keep. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, ba. I think we sang ba louder than they did. Say ba, ba, one more time. Ba, ba. Okay, bye-bye now.
Thank you, Judy. Peace. The wonder of Christmas. And today the topic is peace. We need peace with ourselves. We need peace with God. And we need peace with our neighbor. Whether it's your wife, your husband, your children, or your neighbor. We need peace. And this Christmas season is peace. The title for this topic is A Sheepfold, a Place of Peace. Jesus used illustrations that people understood, that people lived with. If you were a shepherd at that time, you would totally understand what Jesus is doing here. Today we are not shepherds. Most of us probably have never touched a sheep. But a sheep is a different animal than a cow. A sheep, it says they lead the sheep. They speak to the sheep. The sheep knows the voice of the shepherd. But you see there, a sheepfold, at night, a lot of shepherds would take their sheep to a sheepfold and they would put them in there for the night. And then their shepherd, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a shepherd sitting in the door. And the shepherd would wait during the night and watch the sheep while the other shepherds rested. In the morning, the shepherd would come and he would lead the sheep out. It was peaceful because the shepherd knew the sheep and the sheep knew the shepherd. And he would call them and they would come. Once he had them out, he would lead them to pasture. This is where the shepherd was announced in Luke chapter 2. And suddenly there was the angel and a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased." What comes before this is after Jesus was born, that same night, the shepherds were out in the field, and the angels came and announced to the shepherds first. I don't know what reason God had to do that, but he did that to the shepherds first. And the shepherds, they watched the sheep, but they had a lot of time. King David wrote Psalm 23, and that came out of an experience with watching the sheep in a relationship with God. He said, "The Lord is my shepherd." And he went through that, and it was beautiful laid out. And here that shepherd is announced. Number 2, the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd." Verse 1, "Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs by another way, that man is a thief and a robber." I don't know how I just can say that, but on the left side, there's somebody trying to crawl over the fence. He said, that's a robber, it's a thief. It's one who steals and destroys. Because I am a good shepherd. And he does a contrast in this passage where he demonstrates the good shepherd and the bad shepherd. And how the sheep know the shepherd, and they're at rest in the fold for the night. For the day the shepherd takes them out and takes them to the pasture. But he who enters by the door is a shepherd of the sheep. There's a door into the sheepfold, and that's where a shepherd comes in, and that's where he brings the sheep in. That's where he takes them out. So it's a peaceful door. And those who want peace and have peace, they come through the door. No problem. And then the definition of a good shepherd. All we like sheep have gone astray. This is out of Isaiah 53. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. In Isaiah 53, Jesus is demonstrated as the good shepherd who laid down his life. I think verse 11, it says that it pleased God to punish his son. That kind of gives me goosebumps on my spine when I read that. It pleased God to give Jesus, the good shepherd, they take all our iniquity and our sins and put it on him. That is something that we don't really understand either. There was this one story about this one school where new teacher came in, and the teachers hadn't really been able to control that school. And he came in and he says, let's make some rules. Yeah, everyone wanted rules. And they made one rule about stealing. What's supposed to happen to a person who steals? He's got to come in front of the classroom and get punished by the teacher. So one day, this one big fellow comes up and he says, somebody ate my lunch. Well, he says, let's find out who did it. And then he asked who did it. Took a while, and this one skinny young boy, he raised his hand, I did it. And then he had to come to the front. He said, why did you do that? He says, I haven't eaten for 3 days. And I was so hungry. The teacher says, this is our rule. We got to punish you. He said, you got to lay over this bench here in front, and I'll give you as many stripes as we have in our law. And then this big boy stood up and he says, wait, teacher. And he came to the front and he said to the teacher, can I take that punishment for him? So he laid himself over this other boy and he took the punishment. That's a picture of what Jesus did for us. The relationship of the shepherd and the sheep. This is very important for the story, in the story, what happened. There's a relationship between the shepherd and the sheep. The sheep know the shepherd, and the shepherd knows the sheep. To him, the gatekeeper opens. Now, the shepherd who knows his sheep, he comes to the gate, and the gatekeeper opens. There's a gatekeeper on that enclosement. The shepherd opens, the sheep hear his voice, and he calls their own sheep by name and leads them out. So he leads them in, and when he will take them out in the morning, the sheep watch where he opens the door, and he can call the sheep, and they come and follow him. He calls them by name. You know that I have a little bit of problem memorizing your names. Jesus has no problem. He knows your name. So he calls them by name, and he leads them out. When he has brought them out of all his own, he goes before them. The sheep follow him, for they know his voice. We are used to driving the sheep or the whatever we do, but these sheep were led. They followed the shepherd. They knew the shepherd, and they had no fear where the shepherd would lead them. They know his voice. And here it comes a relationship between the shepherd and the sheep. What he's trying to do in this story relate to us people. He calls the sheep. And there's a relationship between the shepherd and the sheep. And that makes me ask the question, how is my relationship to my shepherd? How is your relationship to your shepherd? And it's important that we keep this relationship for the peace sake. So if we have peace in our heart, if we have peace in our life, because the shepherd wants to lead us in places that is good for the sheep. When you read Psalm 23, he says, the shepherd leads me beside still waters. They say our sheep is very nervous, easy nervous. And we see the rushing water, he's nervous to drink from that. He leads me beside still waters. It makes me lay down in the green pasture. Eaten enough, now the pasture is a bed where they can rest. And the sheep needs to rest. And then he said he prepares a table before my enemies. And you can see there's an enemy is not peace. But before the enemies, he prepares a table for me where I can peacefully eat. This is how he demonstrates that Jesus is my shepherd. He's your shepherd. He does that for us. There's one thing that makes it difficult when the sheep don't hear his voice and don't follow his voice. And a lot of times we don't experience peace because we do not hear what he says to us when he invites us to come. I think most men or every man has heard the call to come and eat. Some men come right away, some men take a while, some men take till the family doesn't want to wait anymore and they eat, and by the time he comes, it's all cold. I think that's a little bit how sometimes our relationship is with Jesus. I knew a doctor from Ontario. He was retired when I got to know him. He invited me for lunch because he wanted to know me. And he invited me to lunch again, and he introduced me to his fellow people that he works with, lawyers and doctors. And before he did that, he asked me to put on a suit and tie. And there he gave me a hat that they had made for a fundraiser. And he introduced me to the group, and he asked me to say a little bit what I was doing and what I had been doing and what I was doing now. This doctor, I got to know him, and then he shared his testimony. He said, I was a Christian when I was in the youth, and I was in the mission field. They got disappointed by some workers, and so he basically let that go and married an American girl who was also a doctor. And so they doctored all their life. At the end of when he was retired, he says, I sat in front of my television and thought of drinking myself to death. His wife was also a doctor, and she got addicted to painkillers because she has so many migraine headaches. She broke her hip and had to go to the hospital, and he visited her, and then the doctors said to his wife, you have to get rid of these painkillers. He said, and you go and take the AA course, get rid of your alcohol. So he did that. And he said, when it came to this meeting, there was a room full of old men. He could say it in a very descriptive way, and he said, we all stank. But there's one beautiful thing in this, and he said, there was a beautiful lady who was teaching us. And at the end, she led us in a prayer that he said he had known for years. God, help me to accept what I can change and to change what I can change. But he said she had a second verse to it, and that was, Lord, come into my life and help me change. And he said that second verse I had never heard. And so he said, I opened the door just a crack, and he said, God came in all the way. And he started to learn anew to walk with Jesus, to walk with the Lord. He said, I would get up every morning. Around 6 o'clock, I would read my Bible, I would pray, and I would take my writing book, and I would write down the thoughts that came to me. He said, the Lord has shown me many things. I was impressed with that. What did he do? He now restored his relationship with his shepherd. On a daily basis, he would listen to God, and he would listen to his word and see, does he give me any thoughts? He started following the Lord, and he has helped many people. A stranger. What is a stranger? A stranger is somebody that we don't know. He says, a stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of the stranger. So if there's a stranger, they run away. He says that's what the sheep will do. This figure of speech Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So Jesus wanted to instruct his followers to know what it means to listen to a stranger. I heard somebody commenting this week that he said that we as churches in general here in the United States have accepted so much from the strangers that we can't really distinguish anymore which is the strange voice and which is the comfortable voice, the known voice. And he says many preachers don't even can distinguish between the two. He says many are misled because of that. It's like here, they didn't understand what Jesus was saying. We need to ask the question, do we understand? So Jesus again said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. Now, on the left side is like a door where Jesus invites, the shepherd invites them to come in. On the right side is Revelation 3:20, where Jesus says, I stand at the door and knock, where he wants to come in. This door in Revelation was the door of a church. And he says, see, I stand at the door and knock. That means that Jesus was outside the door. And then he says, whoever hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him. So whoever in the church will open the door, he will come in. And he'll dine with him. So Jesus starts out with being the shepherd, and there one in the door, a doorkeeper. He moves on to, I am the good shepherd. The doorkeeper opens me. Now he says, I am the door. I am the one, because people don't understand. I am the door through whom you come to God. Why? Like I read in Isaiah 53, God laid our iniquity upon him. And he was the one who forgives us now. Then he says, all who come before me are thieves. All who came before me were thieves and are robbers. But the sheep did not listen to them. So he talks about the prophets that came before Jesus, they prophesied. And people wouldn't listen to them. And some of them weren't right. A lot of the people that were in Jesus' time, they would say, no, don't accept Jesus because he doesn't follow the law to the law like we're used to. Then he says, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. He uses illustration of this sheep pen. They will go in for the night and rest, and they will go out and find pasture. Somebody once said this. He says, I don't have to belong to a church. Jesus said, I'll go in and out, this church and that church, he'll feed me. A few people can do that, but not everybody, because there would be no churches if everybody did that. Somebody has to carry the churches and pay for the expenses and so on. I am the door. If anyone enters by me. I fear that many people use the verse, if you confess your sins, you will be forgiven. And it's true. But he expects us to enter in the fellowship with him. Many people say they have accepted Jesus, but they have never experienced a fellowship with Jesus. And I fear that some people have no fellowship with Jesus. And then they become cold and discouraged, and then they leave the church, don't come to church, and don't pray anymore. I believe this message is to challenge us, to test us, to find out where do I stand with my shepherd. He has saved us. What is happening? We'll go on in and out and find pasture. They will find what they need to live by. They will find a way of fellowship with Jesus. And they will find the joy and the peace that he gives. And he talks about the thief. The thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Some people are very bold in coming to the church. My brother was pastoring a church at one time in Canada, and an English person came in. They had a German service, and he says, is it okay if I come to your church? He says, yeah, it's okay, but we have German. Oh, that's okay. Then he started to go downstairs. They had a basement where they had a Sunday school, and he spent time there. And when he came out of Sunday school, he tried to talk to the teachers and so on. And one time he was in the foyer, and the usher was there too, and he heard him, and he says, we got to get rid of this pastor, because he was preaching too clear. And at that time, my brother went to a seminar in Detroit that was on prayer, and he asked the leader about this. And well, he says, that's an organized group. One comes as a Satanist, and one comes as a nice person. They try to get involved in the church, and they try to be in charge of especially the Sunday school. And he says, and that's how they lead people out of the church. Like that's the wolf. And then he asked this pastor, he said, what can I do? First asking questions. Do you have strong people in your church? Strong men in your church? Yeah, he says, we have. He says, when he sits down, one sits behind him, one in front of him, and one on each side, and they start praying. And they did that. This guy looked to the window all the time, and nothing really happened. He went back to the seminar, and he told what happened. He said, you got to cut off all the power from the outside. Pray the blood of Christ over you. And they did that, and that man never returned. So there are people who want to come into the church and bring also something. They bring teachings in that aren't scriptural. He says they only come to steal and to kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Just this verse, the statement from the first part of the verse, the second part of the verse. The first part makes you uneasy. The last part gives you peace. And that's what happens when the good shepherd comes. 11 says, I am the good shepherd. Can we trust a person who says, I am? We certainly can trust this because it was the Son of God. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. So the bad shepherd, to steal, he comes to destroy and to kill and to devour. He says, I lay down my life for the sheep. And that's the difference. That brings fear and threat when the thief comes. When he comes, he brings peace. When you lay down at night, are you at peace with yourself and with God? And with your married partner, with your children? Can you lay down in peace and just snore the night away and be rested in the morning? That's what the Good Shepherd wants. He who is a hired hand, now he talks about hired hand, he's hired to watch the sheep. And not a shepherd who does not own the sheep sees the wolf coming and he leaves. And the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. So it made me think a little bit. I'm hired by you. And the question now is, do I care for the sheep? Or do I run when the enemy comes? That's one thing that you can see very well what I do and what I don't do. And if I need help, if you want to help me to do some things better, the door is open, you can do that. And leaves the sheep, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. I believe what this means is the shepherd. When we go to Psalm 23, and how David explains it to Goliath, he says, I was a shepherd and a lion came. I killed that lion. One time a bear came and I killed the bear. Why? Because I live for the sheep. I want the sheep to be peaceful. That's what a shepherd's responsibility is even today. Keep peace with the sheep. Not flee and let the sheep be scattered. He flees because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. So what does he care about? He cares about his paycheck. He doesn't really care about the sheep. I think we can have an application on that for today. If you work for somebody, are you honest? Are you faithful? No, you don't own the company, but you work there. Are we faithful workers, or are we sheep who just want to use the sheep for ourselves? Many pastors today have used the sheep for themselves. They have become filthy rich and do things that they really shouldn't do. That's not our responsibility to do that. We need to follow the Good Shepherd. He says, I am the Good Shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. So there is a relationship. There is a fellowship. There's a time where we can, with trust, come. And if the sheep are hurt, they might not follow as they should. And the shepherd will know what the purpose or what the reason is. He'll go and heal them. He will do the best for them. In Bible school, I asked in the Bible study course the students to draw Psalm 23. They had to explain a lot of things, and Psalm 23 says, write me make some pictures of each scene in Psalm 23. I remember the first time I did that, when I went through that, I sat and cried. Because this person so understood and brought in a picture. He anoints my head with oil. The oil was rolling down her face, over the sores, because a lot of times they were fixed while they were grazing and had injured their nose. And he said, he pours oil over my wounds. As I saw this picture, it just made me think about how well it's demonstrated what Jesus does to us. When we are wounded, let's allow the shepherd to anoint us with his oil. Even though it runs down on our clothes, that's okay. Just as the Father knows me, I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. This is something that is so deep that we a lot of times just run over and don't really understand what happened here. He lays down his life for the sheep. Today, when I look at families, and I'm always blessed when I see young mothers taking care of their babies and being so friendly with them, that's a picture of how God cares for us. And he said, I lay down my life. A mother basically lays down her life. Basically, the children are all that they do. Have a little bit of time for the husband, but basically the children take up her time. And she does that with love. That's a picture how Jesus lays down his life for us. He did not just live for us while he was on earth and teaching us, but he finally died for us and paid the penalty. And so God understands where you are, he understands where we are. This is a time where Jesus introduces peace with him. My prayer for each one of you is that the peace of God will rule us and guide us, and that we'll have a peaceful Christmas and continue to have a peaceful life. Some questions that I put down here. Jesus, we can trust in life and in death. What I'm saying with this is we can trust him, whatever happens to us. And then the question, are you trusting him for eternal life? If you're fearful of dying, then we need to ask ourselves why. Why are we fearful of dying? I'm not afraid to die, but I don't want to die. I want to live. But there comes a time where our life is laid down. And I'm not fearful for that because I trust Christ for eternity. Number 3, do you have peace? One, with yourself, with God, and with others. If not, there's hope for you. Some of you might remember these people. They're both in eternity. But there was a John Wall and a Henry Tycroft. They were enemies. And Mr. Tycroft shot John Wall once. He wanted to kill him, but he hit him in the shoulder, and the bullet stayed there until he died. One day, John came to the pastor of Stanley, Mr. Daniel Peters, and he says, I wish I could make peace with John Wall. Well, Mr. Peters said, if God is touching your heart, he's touching John's heart too. Why don't you go there and he'll be waiting for you? No, he didn't trust that. And he encouraged him. Finally, he asked, he said, if you go with me, I'll go there. So Mr. Peters and John drove to Mr. Tycroft's house, and there was light. He said, look, he's waiting for you. Go in. No, he said, I don't dare. Why don't you go and look? So Mr. Peters walked in and saw Mr. Wall at the table and worrying. He says, what's on your heart? He said, I would like to make peace with John Wall. Well, he says, outside here. Why don't you do that right now? And they made peace with each other. They forgave each other. They were enemies, and everybody knew it. Next day was an auction sale. They both together in one vehicle drove to the auction. And people said, what's going on here? Who's that? Was that John? Was that Henry? It was. It made a big impact on the people. Do you have peace? Let's stand for prayer. Lord God in heaven, I thank you. I thank you for being our shepherd. Thank you for your patience with us. Lord, you know each one of us intimately. You know where we are in our walk with you. I pray that the peace of Christ may be upon everyone here this morning and all those who watch online. I pray, dear God, that we would, if there's a disturbing in our lives, if we don't have peace with ourselves or with God or with our neighbor, I pray, dear God, that you would guide us in that. And you are willing to do that. And I pray that we would be willing to follow, that peace would be realized by every one of us. Dismiss us with your peace in Jesus' name. Amen.